Welcome to Beyond the Storm. I'm Selena, your host. Today I have a really special guest, Mitch. Mitch is going to share his story of all the years that he struggled through adolescence, being a rebellious young man, struggled with addiction, and at the age of 40 is when he finally received the gift of sobriety. So let's get started. Let's talk to Mitch today. Mitch, thank you so much for being here.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to share your story. I know you're a big advocate for AA, and I know that we've shared some stories about some of the lessons that you've learned through the benefit of going through AA. Can you tell me a little bit about why AA resonated with you so much?
I don't know. They call it a design for living, and it was pretty apparent to me, even after getting sober, that I had a lot more serious problems, some deeper underlying causing conditions beyond just the drugs and alcohol. And that's really what I needed was a design for living that worked, and that's what I found.
I like that, a design for living. I don't know that I've ever heard it called that, but boy, I think we could all use a little bit of that.
100%. Yeah.
I agree. Well, let's step back in and let's talk about, you talked about you were a young man with a lot of angst and just really wanted to go through life on your terms. Mm-hmm. You want to jump in there and tell us a little bit about what it was like being Mitch at, say, age 12 to 14?
Yeah, so my dad passed away when I was 12. My mother didn't know how to handle me. She did everything she could, rules and boundaries and discipline and tried to be the best mom that she could, and I just was unable to be tamed. So I found out that I could open up my window and go out into the streets, and so that's what I did pretty early on, and never really looked back. Yeah.
So what kind of trouble did you get into?
I've been arrested so many times from such an early age, from marijuana possession to minor possession of alcohol to stealing cars, manufacturing methamphetamines, before I had a driver's license. So pretty much ran the whole gamut of breaking the law.
Yeah, I understand. So you ended up going through a juvenile program, and you were in McCune.
I was.
And what happens after you get out of McCune? And for those that don't know, McCune is a state boys facility for boys that have been in trouble.
Yeah, it was pretty much the highest, most secure, the big 20-foot curved, fence with the alarm on it. And, I was there for almost a year. So after that, nothing really changed for me. I just actually went to live with my brother, my older brother. Actually, I left home, and then my brother found that I was living on the streets and took me into his home and tried to give me, a place to live and a stable place, and I wasn't really ready for them.
Yeah. And then after that, so let's talk about. I think you shared with me you had a young son at a young age. You became a father at a young age.
I did. Still a baby. Yeah, he was born when I was 19. So Christian.
And how did that affect you?
Quite profoundly. My dad wasn't much of a dad. He was a Hollywood dad for a few hours once a week. I had no idea how to be a parent. And it was terrifying to me to love this kid as much as I did and really not feel like I was able or capable of teaching and being who he needed me to be. It was pretty common feeling for me.
And do you think that enhanced your desire to use? Do you think that tapped into it?
I think after he was born, it was about 5 years before I first went to AA and tried to get sober, and I would credit him and wanting to be a better dad is probably the main reason for that.
So let's talk about going to AA. What was that like for the first time going? I know you had some encounters with it when you were younger, but when you've gotten to that point where you need to go back and explore this, walk me through that.
Yeah, we call it planted the seed. The seed had been planted. I knew there was a way that worked for a lot of people. And, when there was nowhere else to turn, no other options, Mitch's way was definitely not going to work, then that's where I went. And, I've thought about killing myself pretty much all my life. Never really any serious attempts at doing it, but a lot of thoughts. Not really that I wanted to die, just that my life was a lot of pain. Later on,
you wanted the pain to end.
my life was very painful. And what I had to realize, after the fact was that I, of course, brought a lot of that on myself, but it was difficult. Life had not been easy for me. And, when I went to Alcoholics Anonymous, I saw a lot of people who weren't judging. They weren't telling me what I had to do. They were sharing their experience and what they did. And I saw people that had successful lives and successful relationships and were good parents and careers. And these were all things that I really kind of wish that I'd had for myself.
Yeah, yeah. So when AA became something in your life that gave you some stability, I know that you have a story of where you have then turned around and been that stability for others. You want to talk about that?
Yeah. So the whole thing with AA, our saying is you have to give it away to keep it. And so, we kind of have a responsibility once we get a good life and to turn around and kind of show other people what we did so that they can in turn show others, which is kind of why it is what it is now.
Well, I know that just from reading some of your story that you didn't step into AA the first time and it became the only way. You've stepped out a couple of times. So let's go back and let's talk about that, because I think that's important for us to acknowledge that sobriety is not a cure-all, that going to AA is not the cure-all, that it is the direction, but you got to work it. And you can get tripped up in those processes if you step away from it. And I want to acknowledge that once you go to AA, doesn't mean life, changes the page and you're now living a whole different life. You can. But there's times that people still struggle and they fall out and they come back. So let's walk through some of those, because I think it's important that we acknowledge those.
So I guess the most important realization that I had is that the drugs and the alcohol were not my problem. They were a symptom of deeper underlying causes and conditions. And so when I was in AA and not working to address those things, there wasn't really any change or growth. But probably the main reason that I didn't stay sober. Whereas most recently, when I did work the steps with a sponsor, to the best of my ability, that was when a lot of the causes and conditions allowed me to kind of find what to this point has been permanent sobriety. So
what happens when somebody steps away? For instance, for when you've had a time period that you were pulled back in. Tell me a little bit about what that is, what that feels like.
Yeah, great question. So for me, in recovery has been the only way my life has ever worked, the only way I've had ever any semblance of normal or peace or contentment. And I got full custody of my son and raised him, was sober for, clean and sober for about almost 6 years, and had a house and, 2 cars in the garage and everything. And
life was probably feeling pretty good then, wasn't it?
Yeah, but I got a big head. Got a big head, and it was, Mitch was in charge again, and stopped doing a lot of the things that kind of got me to that point, and had gotten on some prescription Adderall, which is obviously amphetamine salt is what it says right on the bottle, and wasn't too long of a step from there before I was smoking weed, and then the catalyst. Something happened. Actually, my car got stolen, and that was off to the races. And I ended up smoking some meth again for the first time in a long time. And took me about a year. By the way, you can go a year without paying your mortgage before they kick you out. That's what happened. So, I lost my son, lost my job, lost my car, lost my house, and
when you found yourself at that point where you went back to smoking meth, Did you ever have a moment in that you were like, I can't believe I'm back here?
100%. Yeah. And so I, to this point after this, been in recovery for 6 years previous. And so every day, I'm going back to AA tomorrow. Every day I'd smoke the rest of my stuff. I'd break my pipe. I'd get ready. Tomorrow I was going to go back to AA. Tomorrow. And the days turned into weeks, turned into months, turned into years. I think I was out for about 6 years. And then I hit a point when I realized that I'd missed it and that I was never going to get sober again and that my time had passed. It was tough.
Yeah, I bet.
And the only thing that helped me get through that was more drugs.
Yeah. So it was just that repetitive cycle.
The only thing that takes the pain away.
So for you, what was the turning point on that particular time? What was it that made you walk back through the door?
That's a good question. So I was walking down Truman Road in the rain, no cigarettes, no cell phone, just walking to McDonald's to be able to use their Wi-Fi.
So for those who may not know the Kansas City area, describe that area.
Pretty low bottom area. A lot of poverty, a lot of addiction, very poor.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's the kind of place you go to McDonald's to use their Wi-Fi.
Yeah. And something crazy happened. And my youngest brother called me, and he some story about he got a voicemail from me. Like, I don't remember leaving a voicemail and something weird. And he freaked out. And he's like, oh, he went and talked to my grandmother. Is he okay? And then before I knew it, my grandmother and my brother come to pick me up. And it had never occurred to me to ask them for help. I didn't really want any help. But I was just at that point where I would have done anything, to get off of the streets. And
so let's go. I got to stay as a mom.
Sure.
I got to stay this. Your grandmother is down on Truman Road.
She came to pick me up, yeah.
So that probably was an eye-opener for you. That's probably not a place Grandma normally would come visit you.
Yeah, still caught up in my addiction. Still no idea or concept of getting clean or stopping or anything even close to that at that point. But willing to take what I could to get off the streets. And she helped. She did the same thing. She tried to help me. She tried to buy me some clothes. She tried to give me a place to live. She even bought me a car. And it didn't take long until that car got stolen, and I was taking advantage of her, as is my kind of MO. That's my big thing, is I don't just use drugs. I use people and to get what I can from anyone that is
And I
around.
think we need to say that very loud for the back row to hear, that as the parents, the loved ones, we will so easily believe that this is going to be it. And we'll do about everything to make that a little easier. And you've shared with me, we shouldn't make it easier.
Yeah, anything. Somebody told me that early on in recovery. Anything that I do to prevent someone from hitting that point of desperation, to where they're willing to do absolutely anything, I'm actually hurting them.
And you, as the person who has been on that side of it, you think that was your motivator?
So that was just the start for me with my grandma. She actually had to kick me out. She had to say, sorry, I can't help you. And she had been convinced by other people in the family, and it was 100% the right thing to do. And something crazy happened where my wife, who was the one that got away years ago, and I'd never been able to reach her, and she was the one that got away, and sent me a message on Facebook, and hey, a friend request on Facebook, and within 20 minutes I'm at her house. Like, she didn't know that. I didn't have anywhere else to go. And that was really the start for me, to kind of rekindle that relationship. And then some crazy things happened where she said, I'm not going to put up with your shit either. And that was when I got clean.
Do you think you were going to be clean regardless? Or do you think her telling you she's not going to put up with it, do you think that had an impact?
it was a process. The process from when my grandmother went to pick me up to when Crystal, my wife, had put me out. It was a process of really coming to the realization that it was time to find a new way to live.
Yeah.
And as usual, I continued to hurt the people who love me the most.
So going back to AA, you decided, okay, this is where I need to be. This is where I have success at. Tell me what you do in AA. I know that it's all anonymous. I know that we can't really dig into those meetings. That's for the people who are in the program. But tell me what you personally get out of AA, and then tell me what you try. Somebody that's new coming to AA. Tell me what you would like them to know about it.
So one of the reasons that I've had so many times in and out and that I wouldn't stay sober my first time is that I have a couple characteristics that make recovery difficult for me. I'm too smart for my own good. I think I'm smarter than everybody else. I have this underlying sense of entitlement that's very difficult to break sometimes, and this idea that somehow I'm special, that the same rules that everyone else has to follow are good for them, but I'm different and I'm special, and that those rules don't apply to me, and that has caused me so many problems throughout my life. And the main thing that I would say to someone that's got a problem that's looking to change their life is that you get what you put in. All my times in Alcoholics Anonymous before, some of the consequences of my drinking and using went away when I stopped drinking and using, but nothing internally changed because I didn't work the steps that are designed to create that internal change. And every time that I came back, a little more broken and a little more desperate and a little more willing, and I did a little bit more. And then the ego returns. And then I don't need to do that anymore because it wasn't really about recovery. It was about me getting what I wanted that I thought was going to make me happy. And most recently, at the thought of losing my wife, we weren't married yet, and was engaged. I was more willing and desperate than I'd ever been. And I did things that I hadn't done before, and I humbled myself, and I got a sponsor, and I asked somebody to show me how to do what they did. And then after doing that, I've stuck around to share my story with them and help others.
So what do you do when you're helping somebody else? What's part of the steps of being a sponsor? What is some of the things that you feel that you give to somebody who's needing a sponsor?
The most important thing is that you have to be someone that they can trust. You have to be their confidant. They have to know that what they say to you is never gonna go anywhere else, and that's the most important thing. And then simply you show them how to work the steps. You show them what to read. You show them accountability. You show what it's like to be there for someone and to meet them halfway every time. And once they realize that, everybody says that they want to change their life, but very few people are actually willing to do what it takes.
Right.
The guy that I'm working with now, he's getting ready. He just a week ago celebrated a year sober. And 15 plus, 20 years plus in and out of the program, first person that I've ever taken through the steps that has stayed sober, got a year sober. And sometimes you can be a little frustrated thinking that maybe it's me, but it's not, because that we do that to help ourselves,
Yeah.
But this guy he's just doing so well. And to see somebody, the light come on, and their relationships healed and their lives put back together, and the hope that they have, it's incredible.
That's got to give you an amazing feeling to watch that, because you've lived it firsthand. You know what that feeling is, but to watch it through somebody else, that's really got to be, it's probably a little heartwarming for yourself.
The relationships are broken. When we come in, we have pushed away all the people, and we have hurt the people that love us so much. And to see those relationships get healed and to help someone through that process as far as how to make those amends and heal those relationships is the most rewarding thing I've ever been through, for sure.
Maybe speak on, if it's either your own perspective or maybe watching it through somebody that you've helped work through those steps. What is it like to have I guess it's like the awakening of realizing that your family was just trying to love on you. They were just trying to care for you through this. And that the damage that had come through those years of active addiction, active alcoholism. Is there a point in time where you go, most generally from what I've talked with people who have gone through this, that they take the responsibility of what they contributed to that? Is there a moment in time in which you go, wow, I contributed X, Y, and Z, and we are able to heal and learn from this and then rekindle that relationship? What is that like, working through that process and rekindling? Because I know there's also times that people don't get a chance to rekindle.
It's tough. I had an experience in 2004, when I first got sober. 100% did it for my kid, 100%. And his mom was out there, and it was not a good place for him to be. And so it was like, I got to get sober, and I got to get my kid, got to get custody. And I didn't have parenting plan in place or anything like that. And as I look back, I can see that it was a blessing that I didn't. I was able to focus on my recovery and go to meetings and do some healing and all the things that I needed to do to put me in a place to where I could be. And then when I was ready, on a dime, something happened, freaking nature, or not freaking nature, but just crazy thing happened, and I got my son overnight. And I was able to, because I didn't get him. If I would have got him when I first got sober, I wouldn't have been able to be who he needed me to be. Mm-hmm. But then because things happen in God's time and not mine, I was able to raise him and get full custody and be a sober dad. And it was the most rewarding time of my life.
Well, let's talk about how that happens a lot, that we think we're ready for it, but we're not. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about, because I'm living through some, when you're telling this, I'm hearing things that I watched my oldest son. He was in 100% hurry trying to get his life back. And, we as a family were trying to tell him, slow down. Talk about what that's like, because you're like, okay, I'm doing everything. Now give me back everything I lost.
100%, yeah. Most addicts, alcoholics share a lot of very common core characteristics. I am innately impatient, and I don't want everything, and I want it now, and I want it yesterday. And even after I get sober, it's like, I'm sober, I'm clean. Forget all the 20 years of destroying your life that I did, because don't you see what I'm doing now? And and then I get a little
instant gratification.
100%, yeah. And so it's the deal with my son is one of the people that I hurt the most. He ended up coming to live with me because his mom was an addict, and then for me to go out on the deep end when he was getting ready to, he was very hurt, mm-hmm. Very angry with me, and it took a lot of time. And, it was very frustrating for me because, most of what I did, to be able to be there for him. And so it was the same thing with me. It's like, I'm sober now, son, and it's just like me changing, making some decisions didn't take away the hurt that I caused. And I just had to trust God, and I just had to keep doing what I knew, that I had to do. And amazing things have happened, and now he's a big part of my life, and very grateful for that.
So how does he play in your life now?
Well, he's 26 now.
Oh, he's 26 now. Okay.
So he just graduated the fire academy. He's in EMT school. He's getting ready to be a fireman in about a month, as soon as he finishes the EMT class.
So how do you think his childhood maybe impacted him in the direction he's going now?
So I think he had a good childhood. When I got custody of him, I was married to another girl, great person, for about a year or 2 years. And she was the one who was there to pick up the pieces when I went off the deep end and take care of him. And without that, I'm not sure what he would have done. But he was able to have some good people in his life, whether it was her or me when I got clean and got custody or whatever. And so he's been able to have a good life and see what a good life is. And he's also been able to see me at my worst. So I think that he's, for whatever reason, he has every right to be as screwed up as he wants to, and he's not. He's just a great kid.
He just chose this path as his path.
He's just a great kid.
Yeah, he's chose to show up for others. It sounds like for the type of work he's into.
Well, yesterday we got new furniture and I needed a couch move, and I call him and he's like, dude, I'll be there at 6:30. And he was there at 6:30. I spent my life telling people what I was going to do and not doing what I say I was going to do.
Letting him down.
And he's the kind of kid that does what he says he's going to do.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a lot to be said about your word and what it means.
100%.
And when you've gone through a life where you've struggled with your word, when somebody shows up for you, you recognize that. Like, wow, this person really meant what they said. They show up. So where are you at now with your AA? Where are you at now with how you live your life and the choices you've made that has taken you where you're at? Tell me a little bit about life now.
I never thought it could be this good. I have an amazing wife who I don't know how I got that lucky. Didn't deserve that, but got a great career. Like I said, my son's a big part of my life. I do go to AA to try and give away, what was given to me. I get to play a lot of pool, which is nice because that's what I do for my hobby. So
tell me how that works. Going to play pool, you're going to bars. So let's talk about that, because that's something usually people that struggles with alcohol, that's the last place they want to be.
Well, so we don't recommend people in early sobriety do that. So in Alcoholics Anonymous, in our literature, we learn that as long as we're in good spiritual condition, we can go anywhere and do anything. I don't go there to get vicarious pleasure from other people's drinking or watch other people drink. I don't even think about it. Like, I don't have an alcohol problem anymore, provided that I continue to do the things that remove that. So
I know that a lot of people that I have encountered through either working with my son with his struggling with his addictions or sitting down and talking in interviews, not very many people are engaging in going to bars. So I always find it interesting when somebody is able to do that. It tells me a lot about your program. It tells me a lot about AA and the the teachings that you really are leaning into to be able to put yourself in that environment but not be affected by it.
Yeah, for me, I don't go to bars. I go to play pool.
Go to play pool.
Right.
You're there for another reason.
100%.
Yeah. And I like that mindset because I do think as a person that's not struggling with an addiction or afflicted with an addiction, I don't even stop and think about those things. Like, I can walk in and sit down and order something to drink, and I'm not talking alcohol because I don't typically drink alcohol, even though it's not been my problem. But I'll order a hamburger and eat, and might sit in an environment or an establishment that serves alcohol, and I don't think anything about it. But when somebody who has struggled with that and hasn't had the foundation underneath them like you have, I don't even think about how that affects them. But I've been around enough people to know that if they have that affliction, that's a hard environment for them to be in. So it's kind of great to see that with those tools and that foundation being built underneath you, that you can go back into those environments and it doesn't affect you, or it doesn't stop you from being able to enjoy yourself in that environment. So that I do appreciate that point of view for sure. And then, so what do you do now with mentoring or sponsoring people? What's your goal, or what do you plan on doing or continuing to do with that?
I'm going to continue to go to AA and as a person who is recovered from a hopeless state of mind and body, and to continue to share my story and help others to the best of my ability, whether that's going to talk at rehabs, and treatment centers, or detoxes as I do sometimes, or just sharing the meetings. Or
so you do actually go and speak at different places?
On occasion to the detox or whatever.
Mm-hmm. And is that Is that hard for you to sit down and talk to some of these people? Do you feel like what you're sharing, they're understanding?
It is a difficult thing because people don't always go to detox to get clean. People sometimes go because they're hungry or they need a place to sleep or they just want their wife to let them back in or whatever the case is.
They're showing up for other reasons.
And so, all I can do is to continue to be diligent and to share my message of hope and recovery. And, like I was telling you earlier, if somebody's ready to hear it, there's nothing you can say to dissuade them. And if they're not ready, there's nothing you can say to persuade them. But I got to make sure that my message is there.
Yeah. We were speaking earlier and you were talking about, I don't want to steal your phrase because I liked it, about making sure that you are not standing in somebody's way.
Especially when it's somebody that we love or that we care about or that we're invested in, we have this feeling like surely there's something that I can do. Surely there's something I can say. Somehow I have, and my message that I would share to anybody going through maybe what you have from an Al-Anon side of things is the most important thing that my mother ever did for me. And as a parent, I can't imagine how difficult it was for her. But she said, you want to make your own rules and you want to be a man and then go do it, but you're not going to do it here. And she learned that from Al-Anon. And it was a long road. It was 10 years later almost of having a really tough life that I certainly could have easily not survived. But had she not done that, I would have continued to use and manipulate and take and take and take. And she knew that.
I think the disease is, I think it hijacks. I think it taps in and it makes people more manipulative because they're going to protect their disease at all cost. And whatever they can do to protect it, hide, navigate through it and manipulate the people that they're receiving from. I think that that's something that we as parents especially, we raise this child, we see this child through all of their adolescence, and then, this drug addiction or alcoholism gets a hold of them, and we forget that we're dealing with something that is not who we raised. We are dealing with a different personality, a different driving factor, and we try to have that relationship with our child, but that's not who they are anymore. And
I'm sure you get angry. You get tired of being used. You get tired of being hurt. You get tired of being manipulated. And we as addicts are master manipulators. Yeah. And at some point, you end up hating the people you love, I'm sure, on some level.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that. I mean, there's, I can speak as a mother. I can say, especially with my oldest son, we were just exhausted from the years of active addiction. We were just exhausted. We'd run out of every options. And it becomes resentment because you're just sick and tired of it. And I have to kind of describe that as, when an addict has, I've never been this person, so I'm taking from what I've learned from my son. When he was hearing the noise, wanted to use the angst of wanting to use, and he would go use, and he would feel relief from using. So as a parent, on the other side of that, I would have my son aggravated and wanting to use and needing money and wanting this and putting the pressure on me. And the pressure is just building and building and building and building on as the parent of watching them spin out.
And you don't understand it.
We don't understand it. But when we give him the $20 and he goes away, we go, whew. And to me, it's the same relief. It's the relief of the person that wants to drink the alcohol, so they drink it and they have that moment of relief, versus the parent who wants that child to just stop because you're driving me crazy and I don't understand what you're going through, and here's your $20, go away. And we have that relief. And then it starts all over again. And it's the cycle. It's just the opposite ends of that cycle. And I think for a parent going through that, You know, I still struggle with it with my youngest son. He's now going through his. And you come with all of this knowledge and this education now, and I'm handling it differently. So do you feel like at this stage in your sobriety, with the lived experience that you've had, if you came across something really challenging and hard, something that may have stumbled you in the past, how do you handle it differently?
I don't know. One of the promises is that of AA is that we will intuitively know how to handle situations that used to baffle us. And so, you know, I don't spend a lot of time thinking about that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. I try to be present in the moment and do, you know, the next right thing, whatever that is. And sometimes I can do that, and sometimes I fail at that. But it's certainly an ideal that I try to hold to.
I like doing the next right thing. I have picked up that phrase, and I kind of I put it into my own life. Just do the next right thing, and I share that. I share that with a lot of people who moms that come to me and they'll ask me, "What do I do?" I go, "You just do the next right thing." And I know that that's an AA slogan. I know that is it's so simple to say. But sometimes just saying it to somebody who's looking for something and it's so overwhelming, just tell them, for today, what's the next right thing for you?
And we don't always know.
Yeah.
You know, we don't always know. But that, to answer your question, is what we get, is that we intuitively come to kind of understand, you know, what's right or at least what isn't right.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So if somebody was struggling today and they're listening to this podcast, what would you share with somebody?
If I can do it, anyone can. Jobless, homeless, carless, not a cigarette or a dollar in my pocket, living on the streets, to where I am now. It's been an incredible ride. But if I'm willing to do the work, and when I have nowhere else to turn and no other way of living, recovery has worked for me.
I like that.
But only when there was no other way. If there was any other way I could do it by myself, I tried it and it didn't work.
So what are you most thankful for or grateful for in your recovery today?
Definitely the relationships. You know, the relationship with my son, with my wife, my family, my grandmother, who I'm able to kind of show up for her now. She's 92.
That's awesome.
And so she lives in a kind of an older people's community.
Mm-hmm, like assisted.
Yeah, and I'm able to kind of be present for her like she was for me and give back, you know, some of what, you know, the life that I have. So.
What's Grandma's name?
Barbara.
Barbara. Well, shout out to Barbara for never giving up on you. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Even if sometimes we have to step back away and love you from across the street. Shout out to her for being there for you now. But I'm sure it's also, you're probably very grateful to be able to give back to her now.
Yeah. All the people in my family, you know, my mom finding Al-Anon is what started all of this, you know, and I put that lady through hell, you know, and so she's being able to kind of earn her trust back and stuff. She lives in Texas, so I don't get to spend as much time with her, be as close with her, but she found God, and now she's an Episcopalian priest and has her own church in Texas. So she, you know, it was through Al-Anon that all that happened for
really?
her.
So when she found Al-Anon, did you start seeing the change in her? Did you see?
She stopped putting up with my bullshit.
What's Mom's name?
Laurie.
Laurie?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do a big shout out for Mom.
For sure.
Because we need to make sure us as moms out there, we're leaning into a support group like Al-Anon, because they are going to get you through some really tough times. And I know for me, I've attended some Al-Anon too, and I absolutely take some of what they've shared with me. And I also try to put as much out in the public as I can for positive, what we can do to support each other. But when you're desperate as a parent, going into an Al-Anon meeting does feel like it's giving you just a pat on the back that you're okay. You're going to make this. We're going to walk through this together. And parents are pretty desperate when they walk into Al-Anon. So for your mom to do that, I'm really grateful for you that you had a mother that did that for you.
Yeah, the biggest thing for friends and family of addicts and alcoholics is that we have this feeling like there has to be something that I can do right? Something I can do. And at the end of the day, the great realization is that there is absolutely nothing I can do about someone else's addiction or recovery.
You're absolutely right.
And that I get to be happy and be okay and have a good life regardless of what they choose to do.
Yeah. I love that because I didn't do that with my oldest son. I chased him all the way through it. And it took losing my son for me to realize I can't do that again because it didn't change the outcome. And I know now that I have to take care of me. And I want parents to know that that's your responsibility to take care of you. When we get on an airplane and they go through all of the safety stuff, they talk about putting the air mask on yourself first. And you have to do that in this environment too. You have to take care of yourself first. And you can't save that person, but if you're not here to enjoy their sobriety because you've run yourself rampant, you've lost all your health because you've been sick in their addiction with them, then who's going to enjoy it with them? And that's what I try to remind myself, is I have to be well enough for when he receives his gift of recovery that I can enjoy it with him. Mm-hmm. And I think that's important that we share that. So I always ask somebody at the end of our interviews, if your life was a movie, do you have a movie title in mind?
I don't know. Speed's a good one.
Speed's a good one. Yeah. I can tell you that I've enjoyed listening to your story. I know that you really make a lot of difference for people who are in the AA program. We have a mutual friend who shared the impact that you made on him. And I said, yeah, I'm going to sit down and talk with you. So I'm so glad that you were here and you shared your story with me. And I'm glad that you're out there touching other people's lives by being a part of the AA program and supporting others that are in their steps as well. But I appreciate you being here today, and hopefully we can get this out here, and other people that are sitting and struggling with their sobriety, that they can sit and listen to this, and hopefully that they can say, okay, if Mitch did it, I can do it.
100%. The truth is I have a debt. That's why I'm here. I owe a debt. And if anything that I say can be of service or help to anybody else, then it's my responsibility.
I appreciate that. I do appreciate that. All right, you guys, thank you so much for joining us today. Mitch has had an amazing story and shared his journey with us. All right, you guys, thank you so much for joining us. And, Mitch is going to head back out, and he's going to go help some more people on their journey to recovery. Thank you so much for being here.